Welcome everyone to the L7C podcast. Can't believe I'm about to be saying this now. NBA playoffs, play-in tournament edition. We are finally here in the NBA season. So we have our NBA expert, Evan Debo, back with us today. How are you doing today, sir?
What's good, sir? How are you?
Good, man. Good. I feel like it was just yesterday we were reviewing the Heat Lakers finals, and now we're back again. We're at postseason time. How do you feel about that?
I'm just glad we made it through a season. I mean, we weren't sure we'd get to this point. We thought we'd have to start and stop a lot. I mean, you had those early cancellations, right? Of hey, such and such is there's been enough players hit somebody's COVID list and contact list that suddenly they're down to under 8, which was a threshold this year, and they can't play. And you saw a few of those, and you're like, hey, is this going to pick up? But I'm just thankful we got through it. It's still been weird. But, you know, all things considered, we've had about as close to normal season as you'd think we'd be able to have. So I'm ecstatic that we're at this point, and we're back to a play-in tournament, which was added last year during the bubble. They've revised that a little bit, and excited to have some meaningful play-in basketball here this week, heading into the weekend when round 1 starts.
So yeah, you brought up how the play-in tournament's like in its second year because it was brought up during COVID, and you've heard people like LeBron say that at the beginning last year he said it was great. This year is dumb, maybe because his team's in it, obviously because of injuries and whatnot.
100%. Why?
Do you think this is the new norm, like for basketball fans, that they're going to keep this play-in tournament for a bit?
I think so. I mean, again, so from a competitive standpoint with the league, you've got 2 additional teams now on either side. So four extra teams. And then you think about the 11th place and the 12th place teams that didn't make the cut for the top 10, essentially. Again, for the play-in, the premise is, if you're new to this listening or you're a little unfamiliar about how this takes shape, the first 6 seeds are guaranteed at the end of the regular season. From there, the 7th place, 8th place, 9th place, and 10th place finishers play in this play-in tournament. But I mean, from those 2 additional spots, so we're 4 across the league to, again, the 11th, whoever ended up finishing in 11th place on either side, in 12th place, I mean, they were likely, had their heads in the game, and their fan bases, thought that, hey, we could crack at that top 10 and make the play-in. I know, for a while, as bad as the Cavs have been, that was a discussion point of, hey, maybe we could sneak into this thing. Then reality hit, and injuries were crazy. At one point, the Cavs particularly had 3 concussions at one time from one game against Washington. So I think it is. I think it's good for the league. Again, I think your folks like LeBron, when you're in it, yeah, it's going to suck, and say, why can't we just do what I did the first, 17, 16 years of my career, and just, if you're in, you're in, as opposed to this. But it's exciting for the fans. It's exciting, if you're the Memphis Grizzlies who are in this play-in tournament, to get playoff experience for Ja Morant and everybody else too. So, I mean, it's advantageous for the teams to get those young guys good reps, 1, and then 2. 2, that's a selling point when it comes to free agency of, hey, we made the 10th seed. We bring you along on, sign you as a wing, or, bring you in as a backup big, what have you. You could help us with our rotations, make the top 6 where we don't have to hit the play-in and keep growing with our young core. So, I mean, from the fans' perspective, league office, coaches, players, unless you're kind of the standard bearer like a LeBron James and the Lakers, where, it's just expected that you're going to be a top whatever team, and they've been plagued by injuries is why they're here. I don't see why it's not good for everybody.
No, I 100% agree with you. And the only people that I would add on to the people you listed how it's good for are the television contracts, because obviously they get more games on national television. There's games tomorrow and Wednesday on TNT and ESPN. And also in the regular season wise, near the end, those ratings typically would go up because those games are now more meaningful, because now it's not about just winning you're in. It's now win and try and get a top 6 seed so you avoid the play-in game. So you get extra rest for your veterans. Because, we know LeBron, he's 36 and he's a physical specimen, but now potentially has to play 1 playing game, potentially 2 if he loses this one, and then go into a best of 4 onward. So I think TV deals are going to be eating this up.
Agree. Real quick on TV notes. Yeah, more games for them, more money for them. Less games, less money for a couple folks coming in for different reasons. And you know me, my background's media and news and everything else. And first and foremost, the legend Marv Albert announced that this will be his last run doing commentary play-by-play for TNT. I mean, it's hard thinking about. I mean, I get like butterflies thinking about Marv Albert calling, the famous LeBron shot against Orlando, LeBron for the win. Like, I mean, that's Marv Albert is synonymous with playoff basketball. As much as, Mike Breen is in the finals with the bang stuff and everything, like it's going to be tough to see that guy go. But I mean, whether it's him or Hubie Brown, I mean, those guys, God love them. I mean, they're getting to that age. Like, it's tough to see, your television icon like those guys, like, kind of fade a little bit, like cognitively and stuff too. And like, they're like any dude with dreads, they'll call them the same guy with dreads. Like they're getting to that spot where like, it's getting kind of like, I don't want to call it bad, but like it's getting to a spot where they have really trouble kind of differentiating the players and stuff like that, or it just blatantly somebody didn't take a shot and they say they did. Like, that's been common theme on Twitter and Reddit threads, and it's time. And I think Marv's seen that. Poor Hubie Brown, ESPN keeps running out there. Somebody's got to help that dude out because he's way worse. But in terms of just, unfortunately, that cognitive decline, Father Time's undefeated. You and I are both heading there too. But I'm glad that this will be the last run. It should be a good one for him. And on the other note, God love him. Chris Webber is going to be done. He's been a huge point of contention among fans of just how bad he is at calling games. And I think he was non-renewed last week. So this is going to be the last run, and that might be it actually for Chris Webber in terms of as a broadcaster, at least for TNT for now. He's probably better suited for a panel desk, something like that. So he'll get picked up with an NBA TV or as different media platforms continue to evolve. And then we've got panelists on Twitter probably now with the new Twitter stories and all those kinds of things. That's where likely you're going to see a C-Web, Hall of Fame C-Web, I should note. With some recognition. But just on a quick broadcast note, last go around for a couple guys have been around for a little bit. So in how we perceive and listen to games.
Yeah, I want to say one more thing about Marv because I know he's going to be done at the end of the Eastern Conference Finals, if I recall, and just 58 years in the business. I mean, I just, on a personal note, would hope I could survive 50 plus years in anyone's profession, like being able to do it at the level he's done it. Obviously, you just talked about the climb, but 58 years, like that's amazing.
Started in 1963. He's been with Turner for 22 years, 19 as NBA play-by-play announcer. You're right. That was a total number. His signature, yes, on the call. Just absolutely amazing. He turns 80 years old next month. He's covered, in addition to basketball, football, and boxing, and hockey, baseball, and tennis. What a legend. It's going to be, just as I recall, kind of what we did with John Madden and Al Michaels and some of those guys. He's Brett Musburger. He's right up there with those. So, Martin, let's dive into the tournament, man. What do we got matchup wise?
All right, what we got matchup wise. I'm gonna name the four, and then we're just gonna dissect them each by each. So in the West, we have number 9 Memphis versus number 10 San Antonio. Number 7, Los Angeles Lakers. If you've been living under a rock, yes, the defending champs are 7th right now. I know, crazy. And number 8, the Golden State Warriors. In the East, we have the number 9 Indiana Pacers and the number 10 Charlotte Hornets. And we also have the Boston Celtics. Yes, the Boston Celtics are also the 7th, going against the number 8 Washington Wizards. So we are going to go switch it to the West, and we're just going to talk about the big one that everyone's hopefully going to be watching. Los Angeles Lakers versus the Golden State Warriors. They are the last playing game. They are Wednesday at 10 o'clock. And Evan, before we even dive into that, as a media person, I already have a problem with that. Why is the biggest game on at 10 when most people on the East Coast are going to be asleep? I know You might push through a half. I'm gonna try and push through as much as I.
I struggle with staying up late with these on. I struggle with these. I'm right there with you. It's why have those teams play that late? And that's hurt. I think that's hurt a lot of former, or a lot of current Cavs fans, that watch LeBron all these years. I know I've struggled with watching a lot of his games. When you get that 10:30 Staples tip, or if they're playing anywhere else in the Pacific Northwest, like that's tough to stay up for. I'm right there with.
Especially on a weekday, like it's on Wednesday. That means you have to go to work on Thursday. I can do them if they're on the weekends, but typically on the weekends their games are earlier. So, but it's Wednesday night.
I struggle with the weekends even.
Oh yeah, well, that's what you gotta prepare for LeBron games these days. But yeah, man, Lakers Warriors. It's another chapter in the LeBron Steph play. Well, most of the times it's been in the finals, obviously Cavs Warriors, but now it's in the playoffs. And LeBron and AD, they were gone for injuries. For anyone who didn't know, that's why the Lakers dropped to 7th, because both their top 2 players and Dennis Schroeder have been out for a bit. And when they've been out, they've had inconsistent play. And then the Warriors, who, if people remember, they do not have Klay Thompson. He was out since the beginning of the year. We didn't know if this was going to be another tank job, but then Steph Curry just went out of his mind these last half of the season, reminding us who he is. And we talked about it off recording, that there's talk about him potentially being an MVP push, and we can talk about that at the end. But Evan, I don't know if the NBA could have dreamed of a better 7 versus 8 matchup.
It sucks if you're the Lakers, let's be honest.
Oh yeah.
One real quick note on the scheduling. I want to make sure listeners of the pod know. So this is not typical. You're used to college basketball where the 1 seed plays a 16 for whatever reason, and that's kind of the same way in football too, where you get the buys if you're and home advantage and everything else, and you let the lower guys battle it out. So in this case, the 7th team, so the playing games are the 7 through 10. Again, for whatever reason, the 7th does not play the 10th. I hate this. This is bad. I hate this. The Lakers were just on the verge. Now, granted, injuries, everything else, but if you're the Lakers or the Celtics, you are almost good enough to make the top 6. You shouldn't be penalized and have to play the next best team. You should have to play the worst of the 10 teams.
Agreed.
Of the 10 teams. So I struggle with that. If there's one tweak to add, I hope they look at that. Unfortunately, it's probably going to have to take a huge 10 upset, maybe for somebody with a lot of willpower. I mean, these are your 2 flagship enterprises here in NBA. It doesn't get any bigger than the Los Angeles Lakers and the Boston Celtics, with over 30 titles between the 2. Yeah. If one of them gets upset in this by if it's Celtics by Wizards or it's Lakers by Warriors, maybe that conversation will happen. But nonetheless, we have Lakers and Warriors. Yeah, I think that is going to be, one game against Steph Curry. Dude, we know the dude can go off. The dude could go off for 70, all we know. The good thing for the Lakers in the format, it just people know, is so again, if whoever wins the 7-8 game, so if the Lakers win or the Warriors win, they are placed as the 7th team. If the loser of that game will play the winner of the 9-10 game for the 8th seed. So if you're the Lakers, like for instance, if the Lakers were to lose against the Warriors, they would not get knocked out entirely. So they would still have an opportunity to play one more, get the 8th seed, and then they'd go in and play the Jazz in the first round, which honestly probably is I think they match up really well against Utah. Not to say that the Suns are a slouch by any means, but anyway, so Lakers and Warriors. If we're going picks here, I still expect LeBron and company. I know LeBron's been banged up with that high ankle sprain, and AD's been nursing his way back in. They're defending champs. Never count out Steph Curry in anything, but again, it's just a matter of Lakers got way more bodies. It's really just Steph, and who knows what kind of night you're going to get from. For them to beat the Lakers, they're going to need a really, really big game from Draymond on the assist and rebound and defending side guarding LeBron. But also they're going to need
Wiggins.
They're going to need Andrew Wiggins to show up. And we know it's just flip a quarter with Andrew Wiggins. Dude doesn't bring it every night, but when he's on, he's great. When he's off, he's, getting 20 points, but he's like 5 for 18 from the field. Like, you can't have that kind of performance shooting under 33%. So, Martin, what are your thoughts on this, at least the first of the play-in tournament between Lakers and Warriors?
Man, it's really tough because I know the last game of the season, I think he's obviously going to play, but LeBron was down on his ankle again. I saw that, but he's going to play, and AD's back. Because we beginning of the year, we picked the Lakers to go back to the finals, and I'm still feeling like that if they get more healthy. But the way Steph Curry has played this past 2 months, and he just finished the league leading scorer at 32 points per game, and now he's like an elite company with like Wilt, Michael, and Kareem is the only person to have like multiple scoring titles, multiple like MVPs and multiple championships, things like that I saw on ESPN. And it's hard, man, because if he can really just go one game for 50 and you lose, like that's what I'm really struggling towards right now. Like we've watched LeBron, little over half of our lives. Like half of our lives, you could pencil him in for 27, 7, and 7. Like just pencil that in. AD is going to get.
They started calling it a LeBron statistic when anytime somebody gets 27, 7, and 7.
Oh, it's the truth. That's his historical averages. AD is probably going to get 20 and 10. But if Steph just going 10 for 14 from 3, and we talked about the Warriors supporting cast. The Lakers supporting cast has not been all too great either. Like we talked about Wiggins, but on the Lakers side, they have Kuzma, and Kuzma is one of those players. He can be sometimes really good and then sometimes terrible. Dennis Schroeder, I think he needs to play well because I'm interested to see how many bodies they're going to throw at Steph and if they're just going to double team him at half court because he can pull up from half court. Like you literally have to start guarding him at half court. But I really do feel like the Lakers in just one game, they're going to pull this one out. My pick would be different if Clay would have been able to play, but obviously he can't. But I think I'm going to go Lakers here.
Another guy missing from the series is the number 2 overall pick, James Wiseman, who had that season-ending injury too. So that's an extra guy at least to rack up fouls and stuff against the likes of AD and Drummond and Marc Gasol. And they've got the size. As long as the Lakers win the rebounding game and Harrell too, as long as they win the rebounding game, it might be one of those things where, it's just survive and advance it. I don't see the Lakers winning by a stupid, huge margin by any means, but, Wes Matthews and Ben McLemore and Dennis Schroeder, no Rajon Rondo this go around the playoffs. And KCP, they've got their hands full, trying to bump Steph every time he does a curl and, does a little flare off a down screen, pin down, all those types of things. You're right. They got to make just as the Cavs did in 2016 against Steph is they got to make him feel every offensive possession and go from there. But again, for Golden State, that's their ticket to having a chance, and they do have a good chance. Again, Draymond statistically has probably been one of the worst offensive seasons he's had. He's 31 now, and he's really come on as a distributor, some really high digit assist games here recently. But it's just as we know it with Golden State. Steph is going to carry this team, or he's not, or he's going to carry it until he can't, or something else comes through. It's just like a surprise game from you name the person, Damian Lee or Jordan Poole. You name it. It's going to have to be somebody just out of Juan Toscano Anderson. It's going to be somebody else has to come together and have a holy crap night, kind of like Matthew Dellavedova like 3 or 4 years ago. Shout out Mitch Oso on that reference. Let's go on to the next series, Martin.
You want to stay in the West with Memphis and San Antonio?
Might as well. Let's stay in the West.
Okay. Yeah, Memphis and San Antonio. For basketball fans like us, this is like a throwback to like the Zach Randolph and Duncan like playoff series where they used to go like a boring 6 games for casual fans, but for us, we're like, oh my gosh, look at that play execution from Memphis and San Antonio. And you brought up Hubie Brown. Remember, Hubie Brown used to coach over there at Memphis, so that's just a plug for him. But yeah, you can never count out Pop as a coach.
Nope.
You can never do that. And with all the things that San Antonio has lost in the recent years of obviously Duncan, who just won the Hall of Fame, Ginobili, Parker, LaMarcus Aldridge, who left, and they have DeMar DeRozan. And you just never count him off in the playoffs. But I'm really feeling that this time, I think Memphis is going to take him. I think Ja Morant is going to I think he's going to have a show, and I really think Memphis can beat San Antonio. And I just feel like San Antonio is just maybe a couple years away with some key draft picks and some free agent acquisitions to being the San Antonio of like old. But I'm going with the young gun. This one, I'm going Memphis.
Yeah, I think it's the Grizzlies too. Again, you're right. You laid the foundation great with Pop. You can never count out a Greg Popovich coach team, but I mean, they're San Antonio's roster. I mean, they essentially waived Aldridge. I mean, they still have DeMar DeRozan. They've got they just kind of got a bunch of journeymen. I mean, of course, Patty Mills is kind of the lone holdout from what we knew of those Spurs teams. Jakob Poeltl has been fantastic defensively. DeJounte Murray's, he can still, hang in terms of, might be a surprise, scoring effort, here and there. But I mean, I just don't see them contending with Memphis. I believe Triple J's back for Memphis now too. Jaren Jackson Jr. and, Grayson Allen's had a really good season. Kyle Anderson, former Spur, now on the Grizz. That's been a great addition for them. Dylan Brooks, Brandon Clark. I feel like this is a really young budding team that I like as well. In addition to, Valanciunas can get you a 15-15 in a playoff game. Like I just think they've got way too much firepower for this. And I like the Grizz to advance to, a game with the loser of Lakers Warriors, for that final 8 seed. I like them to advance here as well.
And that will give us Grizzlies Warriors, which just happened a couple of days ago, how the Warriors secured that spot. So that would be a very interesting rematch.
And that wasn't an easy win by any means for the Warriors. I mean, it took everything that Steph had to get him to that point. I mean, it was something else. So that final you're referencing happened yesterday they won 113-101. I think Steph tried to do the Baron Davis t-shirt up.
The shirt, yeah.
Yeah. He went off for 46, 9, and 7. Wiggins, good contributions, 21. Draymond had 14. Jordan Poole off the bench with 15. But I mean, it was one of those ones where, I mean, Steph had 46, but he shot like 30 times. So like that's the kind of game the Warriors, a couple more shots fall the opposite direction, or they don't fall for Steph, and or they don't get those contributions for Wiggins and they're hurting. But I do like the Grizz as well too to move into that second game here. So Martin, let's shift things east. Let's look at the Celtics and the Wizards.
Just like the Lakers, how obviously they had injuries, disappointed that they're the 7th seed. Boston, I'm disappointed that they're the 7th because they've been a resident. Typically, they've been in the Eastern Conference Finals, I think, like 3 out of the past 4 years, if I remember correctly. And for them to take this drop, obviously, they've lost Kyrie, they lost Gordon Hayward. They've just not been good this year. So I'm actually disappointed that they're this low. And then Washington, I mean, probably my favorite quote of 2020 going into 2021. Bradley Beal saying their defense is so bad they can't guard a parked car. Like, that's been my favorite of this year so far because they were horrendous. And as we talk about how Steph Curry just went off this second half of the year, especially these past couple months, the same could be said about Russell Westbrook, who has gone off the second half of this year. Obviously, he just broke the most triple-doubles in NBA history, and he's averaged a triple-double for the 4th time in his career, which is insane. And I personally think right now Washington is dangerous. I actually have Washington beating Boston because I just don't know what's wrong with Boston. I don't know if you want to throw the hot seat word around Brad Stevens right now, but they are not playing together. They're not playing the Boston that we've seen the past couple of years, especially as Cavs fans that we've had to deal with in the Eastern Conference Finals and the final Cavs years of LeBron. But Washington's dangerous, and the combination of Westbrook and Bradley Beal, I think that's going to be a little bit too much for Boston. And I'm actually going to take the Wizards on this one, which is painful for me to say because their defense was terrible at the beginning of the year. Still bad, but.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I think this is a toss-up because of how well Washington's been playing, and Boston's just kind of, I mean, they're just apathetic. I mean, the Cavs hurt themselves in draft stock, but I mean, they laid the 2x4 to them last week at home, and I mean, should not have been in that game. I mean, Washington just didn't care to show up. But you're right. I mean, I was ready to write off this team and was like, man, like, what are they doing with I thought the Rockets made out better getting John Wall based on what we'd seen out of Russell Westbrook. And it took some time for them to get up to speed with Scotty Brooks and reconnecting there with Russell Westbrook. But, they figured it out and it clicked. Bradley Beal, shout out Bradley Beal. Dude's been thrown in 7,000 fake trades. Obviously a great asset anybody would love to have. But that guy, if you give me one guy who's like the definition of professional in the league, it's Bradley Beal. Just a consummate pro through and through, level-headed. We're going to work through this. We're going to work through this. And then the trade happened. And then, afterwards with the injuries and then Westbrook missed some time. I mean, it's amazing where this team finished. They're definitely coming on strong. And then, I mean, a kind of throw in the trade that, they had of sorts. Daniel Gafford's been playing out of his freaking mind, man. He is every bit of why. I mean, he's averaging on the season just 7 and 4 or something. But I mean, he's been a really great screener up top for the guards. He's been a really great pick and roll option for Westbrook. I mean, he's been phenomenal, and Brad Beal too. I mean, this guy's been playing out of his mind as a part of the Bulls trade, I believe, with the Magic. But he's been phenomenal. But I do too like the Washington Wizards. I mean, I still think Boston somehow, probably just talent-wise with Tatum and Brown and just Tatum now.
Yeah, because Brown's out.
Finds a way to sneak in. Yeah, find their way into the 8th seed if they were to lose this game. But I'm going with the Wizards as well.
Shout out to Scotty Brooks and Russell.
Boston's got some stuff to figure out, man.
Yeah,
and you're right. It's common sense would say they'd be dumb to fire Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens isn't why this team is where it's at. A lot of it is Danny Ainge. Mm-hmm. This might be time for Danny Ainge to part ways. I know he's BFFs with one of the big owners of the Celtics, which, hurt Celtics fans with trying to get past it. I mean, Celtics are always that, oh man, they were almost in on this trade, teams that never does anything.
Yep.
I mean, imagine if they got anything, literally anything for Gordon Hayward. They had the exemption. They brought on Fournier from Orlando to absorb in some of that giant exception they had when Gordon walked and signed the deal with Charlotte, which we'll talk about in a second. But Miles Turner, and I forget who else for Indiana were on the table, and they didn't want Miles Turner. Miles Turner's been playing out of his freaking mind this year. Really great season. He was Turner and...
Well, remember a couple of years ago, like they had the pieces to go get AD. Remember that was a big rumor that Boston would potentially trade for AD a couple of years ago, and they didn't pull the plug on that.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, Boston's just hurting every which way. I mean, they've had injuries, but I mean, I look up and down that roster, and who else is getting you a bucket with Jalen out? I mean, I love Peyton Pritchard, but only as a rookie. I mean, he's been great coming in with almost 8 points off the bench and stuff. If you're Charlotte, you're the freaking winner. The Kemba Walker thing, man. I mean, Scary Terry's been rolling. You're paying peanuts for him as you are to Kemba, who can't stay on the court. I mean, I just looking up and down Boston's roster. I mean, who's going to go get you a bucket between Robert Williams, Tremont Waters, Tristan Thompson, Marcus Smart here or there has some flashes, but Pritchard, Ogilvy, Neesmith, Fournette, Langford, and Fournier is getting 17 or so a game. But I mean, he's missed a lot of time and had the COVID spell and everything else. I mean, like they just don't have it, man. They just don't. It's a worse Warriors situation where you've got one guy in Tatum who can, do it all, fill it up, what have you. He's just not as good a shooter when they pack the paint like they are like Steph can get you out of problems. So with that said, he's still really freaking good. So, I like them to get the 8th seed and if they do lose against the Wizards, but that takes us on to our final play-in series, Martin. And that's the Charlotte Hornets and the Indiana Pacers.
I kind of struggle with this one because I feel like if Lamelo Ball wasn't hurt as long as he was, I think Charlotte would have been a higher seed. Maybe still in the play-in game because remember when he was there, like he has impressed me so much this year. Lamelo, when fully healthy, and the way that team goes with Scary Terry, as you already mentioned, Gordon Hayward, Miles Bridges, like they can run and gun, and I think they're actually going to be pretty scary in this one. No disrespect to Indiana, but from a fan's perspective, I kind of want Charlotte to win just because I actually do like watching LaMelo Ball play, and I do think that they can beat Indiana in a one-game thing. What do you think?
Let's see here. I'm counting up.
Terry can go 40.
He can go. I mean, I love the direction the Hornets have been going this year. I'll be honest. I'm very much in the Indiana Pacers camp on this. Heading into this game, yeah. The Hornets are sliding into this play, and they've lost 6 of their last 7. Notably, all the playoff teams, with the exception of the Pelicans. They did beat the Magic pretty handily by 10. Bad loss to the Bulls by 21 on May 6th. And then they beat the Magic, and they lost to the Pelicans, Nuggets, Clippers, Knicks, and Wizards in their next 5 games. So I mean, they're not in a good way. And you're right. It's just too many question marks. I think it's just, there's a lot of question marks, and that's nothing to take away from LaMelo and what he's done. And I mean, rookie of the year and just phenomenal. But this team is also really, really bad without Gordon Hayward, and they haven't had him, for a decent chunk here and there. So that's hurt some of their continuity. But looking at the proven, some of the guys still, on the Indiana Pacers they're still proven guys. I mean, Jeremy Lamb's a vet wing. That's not a guy who's going to win you a ball game, but that's a guy that you can look out and say, hey, I need you on, Bridges for a good chunk of the game and hold his own against him. But, look at TJ McConnell, who's really struggled with him. But, I mean, that's another vet guy to handle your offense coming into the second unit. But, I mean, Brogdon, Karis LeVert, Sabonis, and Turner, themselves, and obviously TJ Warren lost for the year. That's enough where I'm like, ooh, this is a team that's not only going to win this game, but I think could well beat Boston. I'm not going to say they're going to beat Boston. I think they could beat Boston.
I think they would beat Boston because I think if Boston loses to Washington that last game, they're going to be checked out.
I think they could be, and I'm going to go back on that in this podcast. I don't think Boston's going to win it. I think that game is so important for the 7 seed that the loser of that 7-8 matchup will lose to the Indiana Pacers.
Oh yeah, they'll be done.
These guys, whether that's Washington or Boston, I mean, that's how important that game is. And that's, again, the difference of if Boston were playing the Hornets, they don't have to worry about it. Like, that's the difference between them staying in a first-round playoff series and them losing on this format is they don't play the 7-10. They play the 7-8. And I think they're going to lose the 7-8. And then they got to play the 9th, which this year is Indiana's stupid good. I mean, I think for a 9 seed in a bad conference, but I just feel like, again, one game playing against them, a lot of vet guys up and down this Indiana roster. The only wild card of this, I will say, is there's been a lot of talk that the Pacers are going to can can their coach, who just hasn't had command of the locker room. Came from a situation in Toronto, dating back to the Kawhi years, where he was phenomenal. Nate Bjorkgren, I knew I was going to butcher it. Just phenomenal with how they schemed against the Warriors against in the 76ers series and stuff too, that caught them off guard with some of their offensive sets and pushing the pace and everything else. It just hasn't translated for Indiana. So that's my one thing. I'm kind of like, Evan, in the back of your mind, man, what do you like? This could be somewhat of a hold up of just, I don't know if it's not a buy-in thing, whatever, but I mean, they got to win. They got to win 2 games essentially. So We'll see.
So you're going Pacers over Charlotte?
Yeah, I'm going with Pacers over Charlotte. And if they get to that point, I'm going Pacers, make the first round, and they're going to play. They're going to draw the lowest of the low straws here. Well, not the lowest, but pretty close. They're going to play the 76ers, and I don't like the Sixers to make it too far, but they're going to beat the Pacers.
And I was also going to say, we talked about contracts earlier with like Lakers, Warriors going to be a big money draw. If we both picked Washington, and if Washington does win, they will be playing Brooklyn in the first round. And I think, if I do remember, this will be the first time KD and Westbrook play in the playoffs against each other. So that's already spelling storylines and money.
We all know that if you were to rank all of those players on the Nets and the Wizards, Russell Westbrook is the 4th of the big 5 in that series.
Yeah,
probably definitely the 5th. I put Bradley Beal over him. He's of the 5. KD, Kyrie, Harden, Westbrook, and Beal. I put him last. Here's the thing, though. We know about Westbrook. Can't tell that dude he's not the best.
Nope.
And again, it just depends. So I would not be surprised if they stole a game. I don't expect them to. I think it's going to be a sweep. Like they'll be that great. You're right. They'll be that great. Probably chippy back and forth, and then suddenly, Westbrook might take a something to the post and score on KD and start talking crap. Like I'd clap on. That's the whole throw out the chair emoji and sit down. Like this is why we love the playoffs, is the stories within the stories and everything else. I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about these playing games, Martin. We got to keep them around. Let's tweak the format and have 7 play 10, 8 and 9, and then we'll sort the rest out there. Let's in a league that still fights a little bit of tanking and whatnot and jockeying for positions. Also, the Clippers definitely tanked, so they didn't have to potentially play the Lakers. They tried hard to tank in the last week or so, which is ridiculous. I love that if you switch it around like that, it'll reward teams for playing better basketball. Let's get there. But in between, love, as we started the podcast with, love this format. Love NBA playoff basketball. Let's ride, man.
Oh, yeah. And remember, guys, the play-in games start, we're recording on Monday. They start tomorrow. They're Tuesday. Let me get you guys those times again for all of you all. First game is the Hornets Pacers, 6:30 on TNT, May 18th. The second game is the Wizards Celtics at 9 p.m. TNT. Then May 19th, you got the Spurs and Grizzlies, 7:30 on ESPN. Then you got the main event, unfortunately, because it's so late. Lakers Warriors at 10 p.m. on ESPN. And then May 20th, you're going to have the winner of game 1. That would be the Hornets Pacers going against the loser of the Boston Wizards game at 8 p.m. And then game 6 would be the winner of game 3, the winner of the Spurs Grizzlies against the loser of the Lakers Warriors game. And that currently time is to be determined on ESPN. And then once those games are done, we will have the playoff field officially set. Yeah, I'm excited, man. I really am. Felt like it went by pretty quick. I mean, they've had a lot of national televised games too for people who want to watch those, and now you're going to get basically nationally televised games the rest of the way till the finals. I mean, so it's over. So you'll have a way to watch it. If you don't, got the ESPN app, make sure you get that and ride it all the way, man. But Evan, anything else? I mean, we talked about Steph for a little bit because LeBron said he thinks he's the MVP of the league. I mean, I personally, when you asked, I said it was too little, too late. In my opinion. What did you think?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that last night and this morning. Yeah, it's too late, but man, has it been impressive. Like the history books they'll only say who finished what place. I think Curry could finish too. I know Embiid was in there for a while, but he's missed a ton of games. Like LeBron at best has played, I think, like 45 games only, and he's had a phenomenal year. But what Curry's been able to do, this is in the last 5 seasons. Now, granted, he only played, we can't really count last year. So in the last 4 seasons, this is the second best 3-point percentage shooting clip he's had, just by a margin under his, I think his 16-17. But what a run. It's been so impressive. I think it's unanimous at this point. I think it's Jokic, and man, that guy continues to evolve how the center position is being played. We'll talk full awards as we get deeper into the playoffs on all first teams, maybe MVPs, defensive player of the years, rookie, all those types of things. But last thing I want to say is just what comes with playoff basketball is what I'm excited to have back this year is playing in something other than a bubble and having fans there. That was so weird. Now, granted, like the numbers or whatever, I'm hopeful, maybe midway through the playoffs that your teams with home court and stuff. And again, when they're even the away teams to start a series, when they get their own fans, as the CDC says, you can bring more and more fans in. And recently we've had a bunch of updates in the last week that, hey, if you're vaccinated, it's safer to do. And if there's ways to safely get more people in the building, that can swing a series. That can swing, a lot of, as you get up in the playoffs, and you start playing some of these ones where, you and I are discussing, it's a toss up. Fans make a difference. So fans make a difference there. Fans make a difference here on the L7C. So be sure to like and subscribe, cook those books, unsubscribe, resubscribe. Give us all the points and accolades if you're interested in continuing to listen to us, which by now you appreciate us and the entire LC7 network or L7C network. So
the only last thing I want to just touch on real quick. Obviously, the Hall of Fame was just recently this Saturday. And I mean, especially our childhood, the 2000s was really represented there with KG and Tim Duncan and obviously the late, great Kobe Bryant. I mean, shoot, if you throw in Dirk there, that's literally my whole 2000s. And then like Shaq and like obviously and then LeBron and them come through. But seeing those two go in, obviously the greatest power forward ever, Tim Duncan, who wasn't flashy, just got the job done. Man, if Ray Allen doesn't hit that shot, Tim Duncan is 6-0 in the finals, then maybe people respect him a lot more than they do. Because then we're having where does he really rank in like the top 5 maybe? And then obviously KG, big ticket. He was one of my favorite players growing up because he was that stretch 4 before it became like really popular. So I felt like he was the innovator of that. And then obviously Kobe Bryant, the strength that Vanessa and the family had. Obviously, she gave the speech on his behalf, and MJ was there with her. So that was really good to see. And it just shows the beauty of the game we love of basketball, man, how we're a basketball community. And ditto to everything Evan said about like, rate, comment, subscribe, keep listening. And to everyone on the L7C network, we're doing good things. With that being said, thank you everyone for listening to the L7C podcast. Thank you, Evan, for being on. I mean, we're going to be right back on in about a week, going over the first round. And I'm going to be excited because I'm going to just give you a precursor, Evan. I already have a lot of upsets in the first round. So just going to let you know. I got some upsets in the first round because there's some teams after last year. If you've listened to all our things, I can't trust certain teams. So they're getting the bounce in the first round for me.
Well, I for one can't wait to see what you have in store for the fate of the Los Angeles Clippers based on last year. So I'm looking forward to that in particular more than anything else you got to talk about.
Just trust me. They're I'm gonna have a whole notepad of notes just for them. No one else, just them, because darn.
They are the playoff Clippers. We are the playoff NBA show here on the network, and we're ready to rock and roll. Let's go.
My favorite player, Paul George. But thank you, everyone, for listening to the L7C podcast. You guys take care. Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.